Welcome to Ladies in Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kellye Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success. Hi, Lisa here. Today, with Dawn and Kellye, we're talking about how to be taken seriously. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dawn first because, she's just the best to punt to.
You know, I'm going to start doing the intro so that I can just turn it over.
To me. Yeah, I feel special. So being taken seriously, like the myth of being taken seriously, the importance of being taken seriously, we just think that this is a topic that we deal with in this industry, in the legal industry, and as entrepreneurs. And the thing that comes to mind to me is I have never met another female lawyer of at least within 20 years of my age that hasn't been asked, are you the court reporter? I mean, I just think that is one of those things that happens so regularly because of some of the stereotypes that we have. And I promise you, it has never been a woman that has asked me if I'm the court reporter. It's always been a man. And
no disrespect to court reporters.
Exactly.
Lisa has a fantastic court reporting business, but it does seem to be, I too have also been asked many a time if I'm the court reporter, and aside from the fact that I'm sitting at counsel table and the court reporter would not sit there, I just say no. And it's just really funny because usually the person that has asked me that question is just wanting the information, well, then who are you? And I just say no and then just don't say anything else.
Maybe it's because we look like we know so much. That could be it. Maybe people are
fast fingers. I do type very quickly.
Well, can you take it as a point of you're being underestimated?
That is good too.
And that's a ploy. And I mean, y'all have to figure out your strategies with what you're doing.
Always better to be underestimated, for sure. I think that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a hard balance because you want to be taken seriously in your profession, and this is certainly a serious profession. But I think you also have to try to make sure that you're not taking yourself too seriously.
Please don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, you've got to be able to kind of take a joke, laugh at yourself. I think we've become overly sensitive to certain things just as a society. I think don't take yourself too seriously. But on the flip side of that is, I think, getting other people to take you seriously and to command authority and respect when you walk into a room. You can do all of that while also being able to kind of take a joke and laugh at yourself.
Yeah, and it has to do with it has to do with your confidence level. It has to do with the way you present yourself. It has to do with the way you dress. I mean,
100%.
That has a lot to do with it.
I hate that. As women, I feel like we have to talk about it. But I think it has everything to do with how you are presenting yourself. But the flip side of that is I've actually been getting a lot of personal joy out of this. I like to talk to my focus group jurors as well as real jurors after cases to get feedback on the lawyers. And I have found more recently that jurors are very quick to criticize the male lawyers for how they're dressing and what they're wearing. And I just find it very interesting because it's always historically been women that have to make sure, are my heels too high? Am I carrying, the right bag? Do I look, professional and not frumpy, but not too sexy? There's just a whole list of things that you have to worry about when you are getting dressed. But I think that is certainly one way to command respect, is to look the part, both with colleagues and if you're a trial lawyer, if you're standing up in front of a jury. Look the part. You are a professional. You have a professional education. Play the role. But I think I personally kind of tend to err on the side of a little bit more conservative than some folks, but that's just me.
Well, and it depends on where you are too.
Yes.
Are you going to court? Are you picking a jury that day? I mean, colors are super important. But really, men should be thinking about that too. I was just going to say, did the jurors complain about the bag that the man is carrying? The shoes that they're wearing?
It's never the bag, but it is
tie?
If your suit is ill-fitting, if it's wrinkled, if it's frumpy, if it's too form-fitting, the kind of the new men's jumpsuit style is very like GQ tapered
Short.
leg.
Yeah.
Too short.
Pencil.
Okay, I've got
Pencil
the
legs.
funniest Lisa Blue story. We were
short.
picking a jury one time, and all the defense lawyers looked like they had gone to like Hugo Boss and bought their suits, and they were nice suits if they were going to like
A club?
not a club, but like like an art show in New York City. And she just looks at me and Lisa says, "Why are all the bad guys wearing short suits?" Because they are short. And
They were the bad guys.
Yeah,
Oh,
all the
that's
defense
good.
lawyers
Yeah,
had
because
these.
she's plaintiff, so she's
Right,
calling the
right,
defense,
right, exactly.
showing their ankles.
Yes, yes.
And she just like couldn't, and like you see like the loafers with no socks, like you've got to be thinking about like, does your jury dress like that, right? If you want them to relate to you, they're not usually dressed like a GQ model, but they do expect you to look the part.
So this very successful trial lawyer that does nursing home abuse exclusively has decided that he is going to dress how he feels comfortable no matter what. No matter if he's in a small jurisdiction, a big jurisdiction. He actually drives his Ferrari to court to pick a jury. And when that came up, we were all kind of talking, and somebody commented on his car. Somebody said something like, "Oh, do you drive your car to court?" And I just started thinking, and I just, as a joke, I said, "What do you have, a Ferrari? You drive a Ferrari to go pick a jury?" And he didn't say anything. And I was like,
Ding, ding, ding.
I bet he does. So
Yeah.
I asked him afterwards, but he's very flashy, very flashy. And what he said to me when I was asking him, I said, "You don't think that impacts kind of how people perceive you or, trying to get a good jury?" And he said, no. He said, Trump's really flashy. Trump's really flashy. He gave a couple of other examples I can't think of right now, but, people gravitate towards, first of all, somebody that's comfortable in their own skin. So if you're going to wear something that makes you feel uncomfortable, as opposed to, just to put on this kind of being segregated into the right fit, the right,
You have to be comfortable. Whatever it is you're choosing, it has to be comfortable. But
I was shocked. I really was.
Listen, there is an aspect of that makes sense, because what I think is jurors, most folks don't know a lot of lawyers. And so when they see a lawyer in court, they expect the lawyer to look the part, right? If they're watching Suits and those lawyers are all well-dressed, they look the part. And so I think there is that expectation, but I am not a big fan, especially for a plaintiff's lawyer, to be wearing your verdicts. That's not really my style, but it clearly works for him. And so
It does.
If it works for you, then it works for you. What the hell do I know?
Well, and then probably like where he's been on his journey, it probably didn't start like that.
Well,
so, maybe he had money from the get-go from the trust fund or something to that effect, but he either hasn't always had it and always been that way, and he grew into that confidence and he decided that he was going to show it. I mean, I do believe when you said like, it matters what you wear, not only dress the part you want.
Yes, I love that.
On an ongoing basis. So if you're going in and out in an office, a couple days a week, or, if you're in an office every day, even as a secretary or paralegal, as a paralegal, I felt that my dress was really important. I mean, you wake up some days, you feel crummy. However, it's you fake it till you make it.
Yep.
Or if you look good, you feel good.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Or feel better.
Yes. Or, casual dress, casual mind.
Yeah, that's right.
Mostly, yes.
Exactly right.
So, it's been an evolution, because I was in legal for 30 years and then I sold my company, and then I was out of legal for 3 years. And I was so conservative. That was all I had known. It was just a part of my being. And then when I got into direct sales and all these young women and having fun, it just opened my eyes that, okay, you can dress. You don't always have to be conservative.
Right.
And I can be taken seriously, but I'm not going to come in here with my,
Your halter top?
my, my blingy little black dress or whatever.
Yeah.
But I am going to do that for that, because it's just, that's what it is. It's the environment that you're in.
Yeah,
So,
you got to read the room.
yeah, you got to read the room.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, if I put on something and I feel like I'm kind of second guessing myself, then that kind of answers the question.
Well, doesn't that go to confidence? I mean,
Yeah.
it really does, right? If you feel good about how you look, you're going to present better,
Yes.
and you're going to be taken seriously because you're taking yourself seriously.
Yes, I agree.
If you walk in, and we all have bad days where we're like, oh, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. But if you're doing something really important and trying to make a difference or make an impact or really be taken seriously, then you really need to feel good about how you look that day.
Yeah.
And you have to know what you're doing. You've got to do the prep for for whatever it is. If you're showing up in court, if you're showing up at a deposition, you need to know your stuff.
I think right on the tails of looking the part, I think it is speaking the part and how you present yourself in terms of your speech and your eye contact. And my pet peeve, I hate when somebody doesn't have a good handshake. Right? If you've ever met
I don't like
somebody
that
and they're
either.
like,
Yeah.
come
I've changed
on.
my handshake over the years. Let me just tell you.
Why?
Let me
Oh,
see.
interesting.
I have.
Shake my hand.
So I used to just do like that, like real firm. And now, depending on where I am, sometimes I go like that. Is that bad?
Well, I would probably judge you.
I
if
just
you
like
gave me
this.
a
You
wanna do a
little-
thumb
Yeah.
mark?
Yeah.
Shantae, I would judge you as well. Shout out to Shantae, our awesome producer.
I
is
have
laughing at your-
changed.
Yeah. But why? I mean, like a conscious choice to change your handshake?
Yeah, like a conscious choice. So I honestly felt like that whole kind of going in for the real hard
Power
handshake.
move, yeah.
I feel like that's more
I had a guy
appropriate.
do that to me. I had a man do that to me the other day, and he
Like,
almost
hurt your
crushed my hand. And I have a decent, good
Let me see,
handshake.
let me see.
This thing's in my way.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. Here,
Yeah, you kind of give me.
Let me see, Kellye.
I
Yeah,
just-
that's a good. See, that's a great handshake.
We're on the same page here.
But I mean, like that man, I don't know if he was like trying to send me some sort of subliminal message, like
trying to break you down.
He literally tried to crush every bone in
he
my
was going to be
hand.
taken seriously.
But I hate, and unfortunately it's usually women that have such a shitty handshake, and I'm like, lady, this is your first impression that you could be making with somebody, and a handshake does. I think it's so interesting that you have kind of.
So it depends on where I am.
Yeah.
So I love that Mark Lanier talks about how he kind of changes his accent. He changes how he talks depending on where he is in the country. And I do the same thing. And when he said it the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's okay that I'm doing this. If
So
Mark Lanier's doing
are
it.
you doing the Danny handshake?
Where is that appropriate? What region doesn't respect a
Yes.
handshake?
So I would say like southern states.
Yeah, I
like,
would say Minnesota,
You're
you
like a
better be
little more
shaking.
That's right.
You better be going
So
in.
like really good, firm, manly handshake in California.
Yeah, in the Northeast. That's fascinating. I will judge you if you don't have a good handshake. I don't care if you're a man, woman, whatever. If you try to crush my hand, that's a different set of judgment. I think a good handshake, good eye contact.
Good eye contact.
Totally.
I just met a group of like those really bright interns, like very sweet, and they all introduced themselves, and not a one of them said their last name. And I
What
was
is
like,
that?
It's like a new.
It's not Madonna. You're
No,
not Madonna.
right.
What's your
and
last
I just like couldn't
name?
help myself. They weren't my interns either, and I just immediately said, like, ladies, always first and last name. You want somebody to remember you.
Right.
First and last.
Well, and it was even hard when we started this podcast because I want to say I'm Lisa Goucher.
Yes.
And I'm Lisa Goucher. This is Dawn and Kellye.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm just
Say
Lisa.
my last name.
This is Dawn.
Yeah.
This is Kellye. You know,
You could call me by my last name. I'm
Can
okay
I?
with it.
Smith?
Yeah. Smith.
Hey, Smith.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
Just the last.
Raymond
I've
Goucher.
kind of
Hey,
been
Raymond.
struggling since I've recently changed my last name. I got married a couple years ago, and I've changed it legally.
You did change it.
Yes.
Wow.
Professionally, I kind of thought to myself, gosh, I've worked really hard to get people to recognize my Kellye Raymond.
100%.
So what's your married name?
Browner.
Browner.
So are you Raymond Browner?
No hyphen, just my middle name is now Raymond legally, and my last name is Browner.
Huh. I have a
know.
good story for you.
Yeah, tell me.
So I wasn't a lawyer yet, like you, and you have a business and everything. But when my husband proposed to me, and we were trying to, talk about things, right, plan things out.
Yes.
This was 20s. I
Shout
said,
out
you
to
know,
Chris Smith.
exactly. Shout out to my honey. I said, you know, I think I really want to keep my last name. And he just, without even pausing a beat, he said, not if you're marrying me. I said, okay, all right. I guess I'll give that one up. But it would have been harder for me though if I had
funny.
already had my law degree and I had already started my business. I would have had a really hard time with that. I think.
I kind of, in certain situations, I will introduce myself as Kellye Browner. And then, of course, just naturally, I've been saying Kellye Raymond for, my entire life. And Chris will kind of give me a hard time. Like, oh, you don't want to go by Browner. I'm like, no, I do. And I did legally change it. It's just really hard. People learn your name. It's like a blessing that anybody would take the time to remember my name at all. And now I'm going to change the game on them. Well, my company's always been Raymond Trial Consulting. Yes. Kellye Raymond Browner. I've got a great friend that does the two last names. It just kind of feels like a mouthful. I kind of trip over my
too.
words.
It flows.
Yeah, it does. I love it.
All right,
I did not like my maiden name.
What was your maiden name?
Yeah, nobody could
The
spell
name
it.
you grew up with?
Nobody could pronounce it.
Tell me.
What is
Krull. Krull.
Crawl.
Krull. Not
I'm
crawl.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
it was. They couldn't spell it. They couldn't say it.
Yeah.
So,
You're like, I can't wait to get it.
yeah, I'm just like
Goucher.
Goucher. It's so simple.
It is simple.
So easy.
Yeah, it is simple.
I don't even have my maiden name on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
I'm a Goucher.
You've disbanded.
Yeah. I'm like, nobody can say it. Nobody can pronounce
That's
it.
so
I'm
good.
over that.
All right. What else in terms of being taken seriously? We're kind of just scratching the surface very superficially.
Well, I think like what you said earlier, just don't get so bent when somebody doesn't take you
Yes.
seriously.
Let's get out of our
it can be a
feelings.
work in progress, or you can use it to your advantage. Oftentimes it just takes one more sentence to get to a place where, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And when you're young and you're trying to establish yourself, even more challenging, because I'll tell my children, and I'm sure you can identify with this, I would tell the kids, okay, you have this scenario, this is what you're going to say, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to knock it out. And they undoubtedly would come back, after having the conversation and would be, I said all those things, but they just didn't listen, they didn't hear. And, it's just because they're young. So then I would get on the phone and say the exact same things. But you know what? It's an exercise in improving yourself. It's an exercise in being observant, like observing somebody's facial reaction, the tone of their voice, their body language, it's not always about you.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of in a spot in society, it feels like, where everything is about us, right?
Yes,
And
that's what we were talking about
feel
before.
like everything has to be about us. I do think getting out of your own way in terms of taking yourself seriously or taking yourself too seriously, and that's kind of a fine line, but I think just not getting your feelings hurt. I think that's easier said than done, but if you kind of keep in mind the big picture, I'm not saying don't be sensitive and don't allow things that are rude or mean to impact you, but there are a lot of things that could just easily be brushed off that you don't have to get so upset by, because if you're getting upset by trivial things, then you're kind of wasting your energy and capital on that when you could be directing it towards something else. One early in my career as a jury consultant, I think I was like a year out of law school. I was at a mock trial, and it was probably a 15, 20 person trial team, like massive trial team, very big case. And one of the quite older male partners, he just made a beeline for me because I was the youngest person in the room, I think. And he's like, hey, hun, can you get me a cup of coffee? And I just kind of smiled and I just said, oh, sir, it's right over here. There you go. And it's ironically enough, not a month or two later, I was chatting with a friend from law school and she had a very similar story, but she got so upset by it. And I was just like, you could have just brushed that off. I don't think he thought anything about intentionally trying to tear your whole being down by asking you for coffee. I think it's just, you've got to kind of remember that we're a different generation. There are people older than us that have different experiences. And I think just kind of kindly navigating that is much easier, and it's a healthier spot for, I think, you personally to be in if you're not allowing yourself to get so upset by every little thing.
There is a great book called Get Out of Your Own Way. We'll put that in the show notes with the author, but it really is on topic to what we're talking about. I will say female lawyers and male and young male lawyers that are in litigation, be very conscious of really staying out of your own mind when the older lawyers say something, because I will tell you, it's shark infested waters when you're in litigation. It's all about trying to make sure that you have some sort of an advantage on your opponent every time you get a chance. Every time you get a chance to have some sort of an advantage on your opponent, that's going to be the best for your client. So I have been in a lot of situations to where, like when you said that lawyer that walked up to you, he wasn't trying to wreck your world. I'll just say that there are some lawyers that really try to take advantage of younger lawyers by saying something really off cuff that other person might
like
not
to
necessarily
mentally
to get them off their game.
to mentally mess with that person.
Yeah.
So don't get upset about it.
That's kind of the game,
humor.
right? Like somebody's trying to upset
exactly.
you.
Like you did it, you kind of brushed it off. I use humor a lot, and I try to redirect things like, try to put some sort of a spin on what that person said just to kind of move the conversation past it.
Yeah.
The more you dig in and get upset about it, the more it impacts you. And they're like, okay, if they were trying to take advantage of you, then it works.
Yeah,
it works.
I definitely think, and I want to be super clear, as I mentioned a second ago, I'm not saying don't be upset or don't call out just bad behavior. That's one thing. I mean, if somebody crosses a line and says something that is just out of bounds, I think you call that shit out. But I think, one of my greatest sources of pride is that oftentimes I am invited, if I'm at a conference, I'm invited to go out to eat with sort of like the elder statesmen of certain organizations. And I will often be the only woman there because they know that I can take a joke. And I don't know if that means I have the sense of humor as a 13-year-old boy, but I think
you probably, I think you do. Getting to know you, I think you do.
Right, not uber sophisticated. But I think it's because I can kind of take a joke. I'm not too sensitive about that. But also obviously if somebody is just really saying something inappropriate and shitty, call it out. But I do think that a lot of times things are just not that serious.
I mean, isn't it such a fine line though?
It is, yeah.
It's such a fine line because then, the boundaries of what's appropriate to talk about.
And it's very subjective, right? Things that I find funny, you may not find funny. And
maybe sometimes no reaction at all.
That's usually
that
sort of the
screams
best.
Volumes.
Yeah.
If it's a truly inappropriate situation and maybe there's, a scenario wherein you can't necessarily address it right there, so zip it, move on, circle back around later. Yeah. It's just not, I think we're in a society, and I know this is speaking really generally, but people feel the need that they immediately have to do something in that moment. And sometimes I think just taking a step back.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Breathe.
Write a letter,
think about
put it in a drawer.
You can still address it, but, just step back. That need for instantaneous gratification, that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Just
that's a great piece of advice. Yeah.
Just think twice
take
sometimes.
A moment.
Breathe.
Because once you say it, it's out there.
Yeah, most
It's out there and
definitely.
you can't take it
well,
back.
and at least if you say it, time does heal. If you're writing it, you need to really be, because you never
write
know
anything.
You never know where the person is, the way that they're receiving the text message, the email. So, that would definitely be, sometimes just sleep on it. If there's something that's
great
worrying
advice.
you, sleep on it.
And you will be taken more seriously if you're conscientious in what you say. It's those people that will just say something off the cuff without thinking about it, just out of anger or just in the moment. And I am absolutely guilty of this. I'm not saying that I haven't done it before, but you're going to be taken seriously if you just take a moment to really think through something difficult before you convey your thoughts. Because anybody that is introspective or that's thinking through a problem before they just automatically just spit it out, you're just going to give them more respect.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Great chat.
All right. Well, I think we have given every recommendation and suggestion for being taken seriously. However, we would love your feedback, your input. You can comment below or email us at hello@ladiesinlaw.com.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in law and business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.